30 women from a variety of professions recently received the International Women's Day Shero's Awards. The awards aim to recognize their efforts for going beyond their call of duty in the course of work.
And for more, we're joined by one of the award recipients, Geraldine, CEO of Series Culinaire and founder of social enterprise My Nonas.
As well as Joanne Liao, founder of the Heart Enterprise, one of the enterprises that initiated the award. So Joanne, we'll come to you first and tell us a bit about, what led to these awards sort of being set up.
Good evening, Steve. Good evening, Glenda. The Heart Enterprise is a social enterprise that works with children with autism and their caregivers. And we carry out most of our programs at the Rainbow Center Margaret Drive. And during the course of our work, it is very obvious to me that there's a bevy of professionals, from social workers to psychologists to counselors, who do incredible work for the kids that have special needs. And with IWD around the corner, I thought that it was only fitting that we try to actually unearth some of these women for the great work that they do. And hence, Shero's was born.
Right. Well, you also brought some social enterprises items. Share with us, what are some of these?
Well, these crafts are mainly made by our caregivers, as well as the children with autism. And you have here, for example, a pair of insoles made by Jean. Her son has brain damage. And this is actually completely upcycled from scraps, made by Mas and her daughter, Akia, who also has autism. And this is actually beautifully made by Adeline Lau, our graphic designer. She's hearing impaired. Every single one here is actually handmade, and 100% of the proceeds actually go back to the makers.
These are wonderful sort of initiatives. And Geraldine, you've also been part of this with yours, My Nonas. Tell us a bit about that. And you've brought your award that you won as well for it today.
Yes, thank you, Steve. So, yeah, this is my award. Not sure if, it's justified, but
well, you're being modest, but do tell us.
Nomination panel said so.
Yeah, that's a great one.
So, yeah, I started My Nonas with the intention of training persons with special needs, so intellectually disabled, autistic. And we found that I come out of 22 years of working in the corporate world in management. We found that these intellectually disabled, they actually struggle to find a job. And there's a huge pool of them out there that actually want to work, but they just have no opportunity to work, and society as a whole does not understand how to bring them in to its community. So what we decided to do was to bring in people with special needs and train them to be able to serve our Italian cuisine at My Nonas. So we specifically lay out a set of steps and guidelines for them, and they follow it. And they are preparing things like pasta and cooking rice. So they're learning useful life skills at the same time.
Right, but some would say that there are challenges working with special needs. Now, what are some of the challenges that you've noticed and you've encountered and you've overcome, and how do you tackle them for other people who want to start such social enterprises to help them?
Absolutely. And the funny thing about employing people with special needs, the challenge is not with the people with special needs, it's the people who are supervising these people with special needs. So these able-bodied supervisors, like you and I, right? We have to learn how to manage these special needs, to be able to see beyond their disabilities, to look at their abilities, and to be able to then maximize and harness their abilities and their strengths. So we've actually learned how to train the supervisors who are able-bodied to look after these people with special needs. So they can manage them at our various outlets, teach them step by step, and monitor them. So it's actually up to the supervisors that makes a difference in teaching people with special needs, and then being able to employ these persons with special needs.
Yeah, and the success of these initiatives, as you mentioned, doesn't necessarily rely on the individuals with special needs themselves, but on those that they're interacting with. So to come back to you, Joanne, and talk about caregivers then, it can be I always get the impression that there isn't enough support out there for caregivers to sort of encourage them or to take the load from them or to just help them. Tell us a bit more about some of the challenges that they face.
Well, I think, Steve, that is actually an understatement. I've been working now with these caregivers for about a year and a half, and I continue to be really, really impressed by their tenacity and their grit. We have quite a lot of women who are single moms, for example, and you know their lives are incredibly challenging. For example, stigma, you know, name calling, that is still very real. Recently, we have a social entrepreneur who started her own special needs center. She herself has a special needs son, going to a mainstream school that has been a victim of bullying. And it's become very obvious to me that the bullying now isn't just coming from the classmates of the boy, even the teachers. You know, it's shocking to see that happening. And I can just imagine the distress, not just for the child, but also for the caregiver. You know, yeah. So Shero's really was also mainly motivated by giving some recognition to these caregivers, you know.
And
yeah.
So you see that, you know, there's also this, you know, stigma attached to them. But do you think perhaps maybe more education is needed, you know, not just with what you guys are doing, but also, you know, with the community as a whole?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very sure Jerry here would agree. Public education is absolutely, you know, essential.
And that's why also we've actually set up in a lot of schools. So even managing a school canteen stall. So the school kids, they get to interact with my persons with special needs.
Yes.
And they start to learn and appreciate that, oh, there are people with special needs out there. There are people that are different. How do I appreciate them? If I have to wait longer in a queue just to be served, these are things that the school kids pick up.
Right.
Yeah. So it's part of their education. And similarly, we're looking at trying to teach other organizations. So I can't be hiring the thousands of special needs there are out there. But I believe that we have cracked it and we know how to train people such that we ensure the employability of people with special needs.
Right.
So that being the case, then we set up an academy to be able to train other organizations, the management of the other organizations. How do you then hire people with special needs?
Harness their specialty.
Absolutely.
And also start young and learn that there are people that are different from you. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming in and speaking to us. We've been speaking with Joanne Liao, founder of Heart Enterprise, and Geraldine Tan, founder of My Nona.